Hey, welcome. This is Greg Lewis, City Manager here in Lebanon, New Hampshire. Welcome to our show today. I am joined by Andrew Gast-Bray, our Planning and Zoning Director. And today Andrew and I are just going to discuss a little bit about our efforts as we carry out the planning goals we have in our city. You know, the outcomes that we are working on right now per the direction of the policymakers, city council members, include such outcomes as public safety and looking at being austere in this tough times and practicing fiscal restraint, managing the dollars that we have, which are all limited resources, as best as we can. Of course, we're also pursuing our outcomes with regard to human services. We have really a essential function of human services where we cooperate and collaborate with nonprofits to provide these things. We really have a couple things when we get into economic vitality. We want this community to be vital, but we also want it to also be a really wonderful place to live, which it is. We want to have that sustainability. And the utmost in our ideas are this excellent planning. And today we're going to talk a little bit about neighborhoods because trying to create a paradigm for approaching the planning in our community is something that's been ongoing. Andrew's been a great assistance to us as he comes to us and joins our effort and leads this in terms of how do we approach excellent planning. We have adopted the master plan, as you all know. Now we're in the midst of looking at the strategies for implementation of it. This is a wonderful document, the master plan, and we're kind of boiling it down to where do you begin in a situation like Lebanon and its unique positioning. And it jumped out at us in this follow-up to the master plan is neighborhoods. Andrew and I were talking earlier today about, in some communities he and I are both from, in other parts of the United States and other places, sometimes it takes some effort at identifying what a neighborhood is. Because sometimes people don't recognize that they're in a particular neighborhood, or they really don't identify with it, and so therefore you have to work out a dialogue and a conversation about what your neighborhood is. But here, I think we both have come to kind of recognition very strongly that people know their neighborhoods and what their neighborhoods are. And so that's really a good place to start as we try to implement our planning. I don't know, Andrew, on expanding what a neighborhood is. I mean, is it the neighborhood that I grew up in, where we were when it was a rural neighborhood at one point in my life, and at another point it was kind of urban, kind of riding my little bike on the sidewalks in this square block that I was at. I don't know, what is a neighborhood anyway?
Well, it's interesting. There's been books written on neighborhoods, and it's somewhat of an amorphous concept, sort of this vague, ethereal. Where are the boundaries, especially as we see in the western part of the country where these things do not have the history. Originally, the neighborhood was the area in which the vast majority of your life was lived. So it was, since almost all neighborhoods prior to 1900, and actually prior to 1920, were all based on walking distance. A lot of people never left the area. If you remember My Fair Lady, where he could identify every little neighborhood because people never left it, and so they kind of enshrined it. So in the east, where we are here, history has taken a big role, and most of the neighborhoods were established historically, and so didn't have the car defining how they lived their lives when the neighborhoods were kind of set. So it was easier, surprisingly, to get consensus, although we're certainly still fielding, and we're going to hopefully go around, talk to people, because it's possible we can get it wrong, because it's important that neighborhoods to remain vital, to remain the places we want. They don't stay exactly the same. Houses age, they get updated, you have new houses come in. So unfortunately, some houses don't stay. Maybe they weren't built very well to begin with. There are certainly some of those, but mostly it's got the general bones heart of it, and most people recognize that. So, barring certain major changes, which I don't foresee, we've been able, through preliminary analysis and preliminary interviews with people in neighborhoods, get a pretty good feel, and I think we're pretty comfortable with that. So what defines it? Well, walking distance primarily.
Okay.
Even in this day and age where we have cars do everything, there's no car-based neighborhood that generally has the same appeal on national, say, interviews or surveys of having the neighborhood satisfaction that they do when they're walkable. So that's why when you look around, if it's walkable this, walkable that, and if you do it in your Microsoft product, it underscores it because it doesn't believe it's a real word.
Oh, really?
Because we've gotten so far away from walkability, or the need to actually define something as walkable. I mean, everything used to be walkable. But we've all faced what it's like not to be walkable. We get out of our car into a very hostile parking lot, and or we can't really get there from here, and you have to get back in your car to just go to the next building over. It just that's very frustrating, and I think people feel that. And if you look at our health, diabetes and obesity is epidemic proportions. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control, has said, "Hey, it's this is the epidemic of our time, and it is killing our kids. It's killing everybody." Phenomenal rates, and it's because we can't walk. We've kind of forgotten that. So in order to get that's some of the bones, but it's not so much about walkability. That just kind of helps us connect. That's our methods of connecting to people in a meaningful way. A great philosopher architect by the name of Jan Gehl, he's a Dane, said life happens on foot. And despite what Madison Avenue might tell you about life happens behind the wheel of whatever car,
because you really get pitched a lot about your car, about your new car.
You do, because and not to knock cars. There's nothing wrong with cars. I have a car. We all have cars. That's not the deal. But it's hard to get to know your neighbors at 60 miles per hour. Hey.
So how do you ever know? I mean, I know I've lived in, I suppose like you have lived in, I've lived in very urban areas where I was in the car for about 2.5 hours a day, commuting, because I would commute into the downtown where I worked in a very tall office building, and then at the end of the day, and oftentimes the day would go long, I would then be on the road again. And it was like living in the car, and I was completely, and there was, and those times that was it. There was no car sharing going on. There was nothing of that nature. There was a single driver in a single car, and we were driving for long distances.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because a frequent commute distance is an hour each way to and from work. If you do the math, an hour commute each way amounts to 3 years of your child's life at home that you're missing. In those prime, they're prime hours. I mean, obviously not counting sleep hours, but the time that you're awake and available to be with them, you're spending in a car. And that just to kind of say. So we want to make, and I think that the bones are great here. I mean, it's so exciting to be here because we have the opportunity to kind of just make it even better. I mean, we already have a good quality of life. We can make it a great quality of life, but basically rediscovering our connections as neighbors, our connections as a neighborhood. And it's, I think, and certainly throughout the master plan, an idea to connect people up with this quality of life, and it's our role as a city, and it says so in the master plan, to cater to the character and quality of life. And that's what we're bringing, is to help make that happen. The city isn't the employees of the town. It is everyone here. It is our good fortune and mission to help the citizens of Lebanon achieve and get that great quality of life. And so we need to do that. So what's that rallying cry? We need to design and accommodate, facilitate our neighborhoods. Yeah. Make them places we want to be, help us get from one neighborhood to the other, help the quality and character of these, reach its fullest expression that we can, and meet the whims, desires, and needs of our neighborhood to become the best it can be at what it is. So I think that, as we're moving forward with the master plan, and I hope I can help husband this with a great staff I'm working with, and great people. We have so many volunteers from the city who give their own free time just to help, and we're doing great things, exciting things, and all trying to help facilitate and improve this quality of life. And the framework is neighborhood by neighborhood.
Could you talk about what framework we're looking at then in terms of neighborhoods?
I can. In fact, I may even show a little diagram to kind of say.
Good. So I know I asked you to bring some along.
Yeah. So I have this diagram here, Greg, that shows that basically the little pink area that you see is the built area, and the purple dotted circle is a 10-minute radius.
Okay.
From the end, which is the center. We call it a node. We're trying to stay away from things and say, "Oh, this is the central stop." We're just saying this is at some central point.
This is the place we're in.
Where we want to converge things. You might find a bus stop there. You might find your favorite restaurant there. You might find a sort of a commercial cluster there. You might find the downtown of that village, or the main street of that village at that spot. And so basically what it's showing is that the natural organic neighborhoods that have grown up, that we're showing, are roughly designed naturally, organically, have grown to be 10 minutes. So within 10 minutes you can get down to your corner store, your corner restaurant, you can catch a bus, you can rendezvous with a friend. We hope to reinforce this, design things, what's missing. We also want people to know that when they're in these places, they need to respect the fact that, hey, we're in a neighborhood. It's time to slow down, you know? And
you can't just go whipping through
there. It's not about getting through it as quickly as possible. You're there. It's one of the places we want you to be, and we want you to want to be. And so we need to cater to that. So that's sort of the framework. And the next one, to show the complexity of how well this is, so that's sort of the horizontal view of neighborhoods. So I'm going to show the next diagram is going to show a little bit what it looks like vertically. And as you see, there are lots of different layers to each of these neighborhoods. In this particular diagram, which I think I've shown before, we see the sort of the neighborhood aspect of the centering of the neighborhood. We call it the economic infrastructure. And as you see at this bottommost layer, you've got a node at the center, and you've got these arrows indicating that that's where most people want to go for most of their things. So if we look at a place like West Lebanon, there's a beautiful example of a great place, a great neighborhood. And I have to be careful, because one of the things with neighborhoods is that sometimes people might have, like, say, a Maple Street neighborhood, which is indeed a neighborhood, but it's connected so close to other neighborhoods, it doesn't really make sense to put barriers up between Maple Street, say, and the Main Street neighborhood of West Lebanon. So we'll just call that whole cluster the district of neighborhoods that make up that village of West Lebanon, or the partial city of West Lebanon. It's a great place, and so everybody can see that Main Street. That's a no-brainer. It makes it very obvious that that's the heart. That's where things are going on in that area. That's not to say that things don't happen elsewhere. We got schools and other things, but most of the life is on that Main Street, and that's why it was called the Main Street. And that's where it got its name from. And most places have that kind of connotation. West Lebanon is great that way. We need to help cater to that, and this is where people want to go. It needs to be more vibrant, etc. And when you get that, and so we look at a place like Kilton Library, which is sort of right on the center of that could be considered a node, because it's got this great community resource. We've got the bus right there. Everything that so people can kind of converge there and say, oh, I want to go from here to Sachem Village, or I want to go from here to downtown Lebanon. Hop on the bus and boom, right there. Or you park downtown. You go to lunch at a restaurant, and then you head to downtown Lebanon for the afternoon, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, right.
So that's that kind of infrastructure. And you want it clustered at the center, because you can't necessarily deliver a library at everybody's door. I know we can do it with the internet a little bit, but the general people getting out and walking, we have to connect.
The experience of being in a library, because the libraries, I know that in both our libraries, the one in West Lebanon, the one in downtown Lebanon, both have characterized that we want to be a kind of a center of community. I mean, that's part of so it's not just there's a place to and access book. There are wonderful books there, but it's an experience too. You engage in an experience. I know there's a lot of aspects of the experience in this, and when we talk about the layers thing, it's kind of interesting how many, how rich your life can be by the approach of looking at neighborhoods versus if you have no neighborhoods and you have. If you have just sprawl and you're sprawling, what are you really doing? I mean, it's like a completely kind of discord. You're just laying all this stuff out there, and you're just like, it really sometimes it just gives you a feeling of alienation. I have a sense of alienation in sprawl. Yes, and instead of belonging in the community, belonging to you and all, and you belonging to the setting in which you're in, you're not belonging. You're there, but
there's no there there.
There's no there there.
And that's key, because and you look at sort of the places that people are going now, even in these bad economic times, they're going to places. They're going to places that have a center and edges, and people can belong. And those places are keeping their value, whereas those other places that were sort of half places, and I'm not trying to criticize them. There's many reasons to go in there, but they're not keeping their value like the other places. People want to belong, as you said. I think that's so clear. And there are other layers that fit there. So, just like at the Kilton, where you could go from there very easily, boom, to another village, another neighborhood, with the bus, bike, car, and we want to help increase that. There's green infrastructure that also kind of connects, because if we do it right, then we can get from there very easily to our wonderful open spaces that we have. We have parks, we have active parks and recreational parks, and we have more wild kind of remote areas, and they're all within easy, just 15 minutes from all of our central places of our villages. We could see wildlife like you don't find in most of the rest of the country. Very accessible. Moose, bear, deer, very easily. And all of these things work together in a fine puzzle. So under every city that has the main street, which we all recognize by having a little taller buildings. I know that sounds really kind of untechnical, and it shouldn't be, but we know that the reason the buildings are tall is because they have that allows them to hold, relative to the rest, more stuff, more activities that we want to get to. And so that in planning they call it bid rent theory. More people want to be there, so in order to fit in that space, the people are trying to get in there, and it goes up. So that's how it tells us. And if we look at our main streets throughout that house, that node, that center part of our places, they tend to be a little taller. They tend to have more things and more things going on. The mall in downtown Lebanon is another great example of that.
It is. It is.
And if you're in a place like Sachem Village, wonderful, bones of that place, I can foresee, even though it would never be another downtown Lebanon, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have a center. People want to go. You have that wonderful recreational facility right there where people want to go, and that's a rallying point. And I could imagine a corner restaurant if or store there if the residents want that. And the economics have to be there for it. But certainly, I think it wouldn't hurt the character of the area. So we want to go neighborhood to neighborhood and find this stuff out and ask them questions. What do you like about it? Doing. What would you like to get to? And I hope. I
know that the council has recently adopted a new approach in terms of its Well, it's like there's always a connection between the land use and the transportation, and they recently went into the idea of trying to look at their streets, and the purposes that we for establishing place with regard to our streets, and I thought that was rather interesting in looking at our neighborhoods about how we're going to approach these streets, local streets versus non-local streets.
Absolutely,
that was kind of interesting. And also, there was emphasis on trees, and that was interesting part of the neighborhoods because I live in West Lebanon, and of course in the area I live off Sim Hill and on Tinley Drive in Carlton and Tinley and that area, and how people are in a neighborhood. I really have a good sense of neighborhood there, and as you were mentioning, that you could walk from there and you could go to downtown West Lebanon. I mean, if you needed to go do banking, or if you wanted to purchase some food, or if you wanted to purchase some supplies, or if you had some business you needed to take care of, then the Kilton's there for the library. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting how this connectivity that's going on. It's created itself, and it's organic, and so we have to kind of we have to be supportive. We shouldn't be going against the grain of an organic development here, but human. Really the essence. We should be going with it and nurturing it and supporting it.
Oh, absolutely. Well described. I like that. I like that term. And in fact, it's interesting you mentioned that with the streets. That's sort of the thing. That's sort of city stuff, right? The streets, and how do we use that street to reinforce neighborhood? And so you were very right. The council's done a wonderful job of adopting a policy, trying to encourage a sense and a communication mechanism with the neighborhoods to say, hey, if you're on our main street, stay a while. Maybe you want to pull over. We'll give you some parking, some bike parking, whatever you need to come and stay a while here, because this is a place you want to go. We don't want you flying through here at 55 miles per hour.
Yeah.
If you're going to come here, if you need to go on from here to some other place, that's fine too. But while you're coming through, let's slow it down. So the street actually helps, if it's designed right, slow people down and says, welcome, come stay. We'd love to have you here. If you're moving on through, that's fine. And a lot of people say, oh, I don't have the time, you can't slow me down. But the reality is the actual downtown area of these the sort of Main Street area is very short, and you're really only talking a few seconds. That's all we're talking about, to save a life. Because if they're going fast, then Junior crossing the street in that area where we want Junior to be, so he can pick up a gallon of milk and bring it home because he eats so much cereal, right? And you don't want him getting killed down there. You want it safe. It's part of how that goes. And what's a couple seconds? Because I'm serious. The calculations are there.
That's how
the changing from 25 to 55 on Main Street in West Lebanon would not amount to really any significant savings in time of somebody getting someplace. And it's all the more reason, though, that if they are slower than other people, it's where we can get more people doing what they want to do. It's better for business. It's better for quality of life. It's better for people getting where they need to go. It's actually even can be shown to be better in terms of total time to destination. Strangely, going faster
doesn't mean you're going to arrive, because your time of travel doesn't affect it in the magnitude one would think it would if you travel. That's right. Because it's just the nature of our places and how we transport ourselves around.
You got it. So that's it. So that's neat.
Where do you think we're going to go with the planning now with regard to neighborhoods? I mean, what do we have to do? What are things we need to think about?
Well, we need to think about these neighborhoods and our places, how we want them to become. What kind of place do we want it to be? What aspects do we like now? Is it safe? Is it safe? A lot of people tend to overestimate, because Lebanon's a safe place by and far. By and large, the estimate of, oh gosh, nobody's going to come and tear down my door. I've been in other places where that hasn't been the case, but it's pretty safe. But there's more chance of somebody getting accidentally hurt through an accident, and so. It's safer for cars also, doing the right size fit for what we're in coming to that, not just one size fits all. So in order to understand that better, we need to get out there. And you've already had a great linkage started in West Lebanon. We had a meeting on Crafts Avenue.
Yeah, we did a Crafts Avenue walk. there's this. So you think about the fundamentals of what we might do, and I think most people really don't like non-human communication. It's like, you watch 2001 or anything else. He says we don't like to talk to robots. We don't really care for some of that stuff. And remotely, letters are so impersonal. To get a letter in the mail, it used to be trepidation. When I was, you get a letter in the mail, and you always think that's probably going to be bad news. Because that's how I grew up in a family. If you got a letter, it wasn't like, oh, we're happy we're going to get a letter. When you got a letter, it was very much might have bad news in it. So what do? Well, we needed the personal contact. And how do you have personal contact in a population that's very mobile and moving around a lot? How do we do that? And I guess that's one of our struggles. On crafts, we sent the letter, probably scared people, but the letter went out and said, hey, we're going to show up on Monday, and we're going to show up at 5 o'clock, and we're going to be walking around your neighborhood, and if you'd like, come out and visit and show us what you think about your street and what you think about your yard and what you can do. And we went out there, and we went out as a team. So you were along, and I and with myself, and then our public works director, and our city engineer, and our supervisor for our water operation, and we went out there, and we just strolled around and visited with the people. And they were very engaged, and they're very welcoming, and they had very constructive suggestions, recommendations. They just had simple comments. They showed it's like us. We show what we're proud about. The rock wall that we're proud of, the bushes that we're proud of, the big trees that we were concerned about. Where we had a difficulty in the street, and the speed issue was brought out. They brought out the speed, and there was mothers who said they put their kids' little trucks they carry around on the street to try to stop the traffic from slowing down. And they were talking about all this self-help that they had been executing on, and some of it, with regards to their street. They surely cared about their street, and they were surely knowledgeable, and they had so much more knowledge to give. And all it was just listening. And it was, if we listen, if we have direct personal contact, we have a listening mechanism, and we have a way of taking that back and documenting that and bringing that back. It kind of, and basically it's validation to recognize we're listening, we're understanding more, we are respecting knowledge and abilities, and that's what this community has a lot of. And then we came out with the valuing, and it was a two-way street on that thing. And people were telling me where the poison ivy were. And so that kind of piloting model is something we just have to find out how we do that in this setting with the number of neighborhoods we have. And that would give an opportunity for, I think, the connection in the community, and the community engaging in the city reflective of what the citizens, wish the city to pursue, what people are willing for us to do, what is the right thing to do, what is what's affordable for people, And I think that's a wonderful thing, and I think we have to figure out how to do that in our city, and that's what I think we're going to be about.
I couldn't agree more. I'm looking forward to it. I want the input of people in the city. We're going to have questions, and we want very much to engage like we did on Crafts Avenue, like you led on Crafts Avenue. We'll help try to frame it just so people know so they can maybe look and think about some things ahead of time, and we'll get this on our website to kind of help bring them up to speed so we can get right to the answers. But then we are going to turn that into infrastructure and planning to cater to that, to make that really happen. Obviously, everybody doesn't get each individual person, I'd love to be my own king that doesn't happen. But I think as a neighborhood, we all live better in a great community, and we will find that out, and we want your input on how to make it better and make Lebanon even better.
Yeah, I think if we listen to one another, if we do those things that require us to respect and valuing, and then we need to bring the necessary infrastructure to support what what people will want to live with, and live with is not to me. It's a thought that's not diminishing. I can live with that. It's really more actual. It's just the actual meaning of that. Live is fully engaged in life, and to fully engage in life, and this is, I make a choice that I can fully engage in life in this manner with the persons that I live with in a community, and I think it helps break the barriers, the polarization, the things that don't work because human relationships break down, and I think that healthiness will be good for everybody because we'll be respectful of everything. The environment, we'll be respectful of our infrastructure, we'll be respectful of our business community, we'll be respectful in our neighborhoods. And I don't think we need to be a divided community, we need to be a united community. And I think the neighborhoods, let's begin with the neighborhoods. So today we hope you, this is more to kind of spur more thinking on the part of people that may see this show. About what you think about having a neighborhood-based community in the city of Lebanon, and the sustainable Lebanon is based all on neighborhood and community. So, thank you very much today, and we hope you're enjoying the summer, and we'll see you very soon in the next show.